Welcome to Fountain Penthropology. This is Michael, your personal penthropologist, exploring the wide world of fountain pens and those who wield them. I'd like to take this video and talk about my response to SBREBrown's recent video. He published a video a day or so ago talking about his 3 criteria for purchasing fountain pens. I'm going to just briefly go over his 3 criteria and then talk about what my criteria are for how I decide which fountain pens to purchase and why. So first of all, SBREBrown says that it has to write out of the box. Completely agree. A fountain pen that does not come right out of the box working is a complete disservice to the customer, to the retailer, and ultimately to the manufacturer of a pen that does not work right out of the box. This does not mean that it does not write as wet or as dry as you would like, but as long as the nib is functioning, is putting ink to paper, then I think that the manufacturer has done their job. I definitely agree with SBREBrown that it has to write out of the box. His second criterion is that it has to be beautiful. And of course, this is a very subjective, very personal criterion, and everyone is going to have a different preference in terms of what pen is more beautiful to them. And then his third criterion is that he prefers an exotic, quote unquote, exotic filling system over a traditional cartridge converter or piston filling system. And these are really interesting criteria for choosing a fountain pen. I'd like to share what I consider when I'm buying fountain pens. And the first definitely has to agree with SBREBrown. It really comes down to the nib and the pen have to function right out of the box. The filling mechanism is solid. The nib is tuned. It might be the personal preference of the user in terms of the perfect line width, because line widths will vary, especially when machining nibs. But it has to write right out of the box. It's got to be able to put ink to paper in an orderly fashion, and it's got to fill properly. And you'd be surprised at how many fountain pens are on the market right now that actually do not meet this requirement. So that to me is a really big deal. I echo SBREBrown's comments completely. But the second criterion I have for what I choose in fountain pens is it has to present a reasonable value proposition. Or are we talking, $400 for a steel nibbed fountain pen from a major manufacturer? Or are we talking $175 for a gold nibbed pen from a major manufacturer? The value proposition is extremely important to me. I don't mind using steel nibs. In fact, some of the steel nibs I own are the best functioning pens that I have in my collection. But it is a matter of getting the value in terms of the quality of the materials used, the craftsmanship, attention to detail, and whether the nib is gold or stainless steel. Prefer, in terms of the value proposition, larger pens. And I don't necessarily believe larger pens should cost a ton more than smaller pens. We are talking about a little bit more material in its manufacturing. For example, and not to throw them under the bus, Sailor pens, if you look at the ProGear Slim versus the regular ProGear, we're talking a difference of hundreds of dollars. And yes, we were talking the difference between a 14 karat gold nib and a 21 karat gold nib. But the fact remains that it's a slightly larger barrel, larger grip section, and cap, and an upgraded nib. Is that worth $100 or more dollars? For me, that's not a decent value proposition. That's why I tend to buy the smaller versions of Sailor pens and follow the same criterion when I'm looking at other pen companies as well. I also have a criterion of looking at smaller pen manufacturers. With fountain pens being such a personal, subjective hobby, I prefer to shop from smaller pen manufacturers. I support small businesses, especially in these times, these unsettling political times where we're facing tariffs. I believe today they just got the de minimis, $800 or less exemption for tariffs from China, which is huge news, by the way. It really is more important now than ever to support our smaller pen manufacturers, both in the United States, but also abroad, because we are one big family of fountain pen users. It is important to give back to those smaller pen manufacturers because they're really creating amazing products. I will shout out 3 of my favorite smaller pen manufacturers, the first being Brute Force Design. I purchased a pen from Brute Force Design at the Dallas Pen Show last year, and it is one of my favorites in terms of the size, the balance, perfectly he tuned the nib. It was an absolutely amazing experience. It writes every time I uncap, no matter how long it's been its pen case. The second is Heinz pens. Heinz pens represents a wonderful value proposition with different colors, different color nibs, different sizes of pens, and all at reasonable prices. They really do take pride in their work, and it shows. The third is Gravitas pens. I really enjoy the products that Ben Walsh has designed and manufactures. In fact, my first pen review coming up is going to be my review of the Figboot Gravitas collaboration pen called the Bifrost. I'm very excited to share that review with you in a few days, so please stay tuned. But those are some of the smaller pen manufacturers that I support and would definitely encourage you to do the same. I'll link their web pages in the description below. My fourth and final criterion is aesthetics. This was SBREBrown's second point, but it's my last. For me, it's not just the beauty of a pen, it's much more in terms of the size of the pen. I do prefer that the grip section be a bit thicker and that it be a larger barrel to rest comfortably in my hand. I don't have the largest hands, but I do have larger hands that require a larger pen for a more comfortable writing experience. Not only does it have to be aesthetically beautiful with vibrant colors, but it also has to be the size that I prefer. It could be the most gorgeous pen, but if it's the size of a tiny mechanical pencil, it's not going to be for me, and I'm not going to end up purchasing that pen. This includes the bespoke pens that have the very slender and long metal grip sections. They are beautiful pens, machined, hand-turned, either acrylic or wood. But for me, it's just not as comfortable a writing experience having such a small grip section to have to wrap my hand around. And so aesthetics for me is, first, is it a bigger pen? And then, is it a gorgeous pen? That's going to be subjective, but that's my criteria. Please let me know what you think about my criteria for purchasing fountain pens, and please share your criteria. What do you look for? Comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe for future videos, including that upcoming review of Fig Gravitas Bifrost. And I look forward to seeing you in the next video. This is Michael, the Fountain Penthropologist, signing off.